Hey everyone, it's Hindash. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so thrilled for today's look because I finally have Shivani back in my studio and we have been talking and planning this look since we met, but we didn't really want to rush it. But when she was here this time, we're like, we're just gonna do it. We're gonna do whatever it takes and we're gonna find a way to perfect it. And you may know Shivani from my previous tutorials. She was in one of my campaigns as well for color fluid in the shade canvas. And I really love Shivani. She's my Scorpio sister. So today's look was crucial for us to create because there's nothing I love more than a bridal look. And this time I really wanted to work with the garment and with Shivani herself and kind of implement her personality and her vibe throughout this stunning look. And I really love how ethereal, classic, but how bold and strong it is at the same time. It kind of demands a presence, but in this really like elegant, soft way. I mean, Shivani really pulls it off, I think. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so you can see more of these videos week by week and enjoy the tutorial. To start off the look, I really want to take the time to focus on skin prep. I know brides usually have a pretty targeted skin routine months in advance, but to some it's not realistic, so regardless, I do love to spoil my brides for a special treat when it comes to prepping the skin for the big day. Here I'm taking a Hydra Prep gel and applying it all over the skin because I'm going to be using a device. If you're using any sort of facial tool, you really need to create slip on the skin to maximize the results and to make sure you're not tugging at your face. So that can be a conductor gel, a facial oil, or even a very emollient face cream. For my device, I'm using the Shani Darden Facial Sculpting Wand. It basically works through vibration. I'm personally sensitive to microcurrent devices, so I don't really tend to use these on other people because you never really know. I'd rather go for something more manual and surface level. My goal is to just depuff the face and get that blood circulation going. This is great if you're puffy in the morning or have water retention. I personally see a major difference if I'm using this on myself. So I'm following the contours of the face with this device, making sure I go upwards and outwards. For the forehead, I like to use the lowest setting because it's more of a delicate area. So me and Shivani have been talking about creating a bridal look for quite a long time now. When she texted me saying that she's coming to Dubai to attend a friend's wedding, I immediately asked if she'd want to do an Indian bridal look. She already had a few of the outfits, so it was a bit easier for us to pull things together and make this happen, but it was quite last minute. I actually did her makeup here for one of the parties, but she changed into a different outfit after. We talked in detail about what type of look would be appropriate for an Indian bride in terms of colors, traditions, and ways to give it a more contemporary take, all while respecting the richness of the culture. Here I'm switching to a smaller massage head to get around the more delicate contours of the face, like around the nose and smile lines, and around the under eye and contours of the eye. It's a softer rubber tip, so it does feel quite cushiony. Taking one of my OG prep sprays, the Caudalie Beauty Elixir, and spraying that all over to refresh the skin and wake Shivani up post-massage. And following up with the Augustinus Bader, the Essence, to brighten and infuse the skin. This also helps the absorption of other moisturizers that you put on top. So I'm just patting it into the skin and down the neck. Because Shivani's on the drier side, creating thinner layers of moisture really helps in terms of how the makeup sits on top of the skin and how it wears throughout the day and night. I'm using the Augustinus Bader, the Rich Cream, which I really love. It creates kind of like a thin emollient layer over the skin that feels and acts like a nourishing primer. You start to feel it as you rub it in, and when you wash your hands, there's almost like a barrier repairing layer left over. The other moisturizer that does this for me is the SkinCeuticals Triple Lipid Moisturizer. If you love that, I do. Also, nothing beats a good facial massage with your hands, so I'm taking the time to really work this in. Then I'll go in with one of my favorite eye masks. This is the 111 Skin Celestial Black Diamond Eye Mask. Then a thick layer of the Glossier MangoBalm.com over the lips like a mask. I usually leave the eye mask on and start with eyes, but for the purpose of showing a cohesive skin prep routine, I'm taking them off after about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'll apply a nourishing eye cream that also doubles as a primer. The one that I love for makeup is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Eye Base. It's so good and does everything I need an eye cream to do for makeup prep. My tip is to take the eye cream over any areas where you'd need an extra boost of hydration, or where you feel makeup looks a bit dry or cakey, like around the mouth, smile lines, and between the brows. And that is skin prep done. When it comes to makeup, I always prefer starting with the eyes, and that means I'm using my color fluids, of course. The color fluids are one of my all-time favorite products, and it does make me so happy to see the overwhelming response surrounding them. I know they've been out of stock for a while, but we're definitely working hard on bringing them back with the introduction of some incredible one and done colors that I've worked on. My color fluids are thin, incredibly pigmented, and forgiving. They don't accentuate lines and feel like a second skin. Waterproof and budge proof, I can't do an eye look without them. They've truly elevated my eye looks. This is the shade Carve, which is our #1 bestseller. Carve adds this beautiful, even, neutral layer all over Shivani's lids. It amplifies shadows and just creates incredible textures in terms of shimmers that you put on top. It really just helps grip onto everything. I'm also taking it underneath the lower lash line. When using color fluids, they're best blended with a synthetic brush or fingers. You don't want to use a natural bristle brush because they'll really cling onto the hairs, making it very difficult to clean. Next, I'll go in with my eye tone pencil in Intra. My pencil has been much loved and worn out. I'm lining her lash line and creating a classic shape, but instead of winging it out, I'll be using my smudger brush to blend the color upwards and into the outer V. Think of this as underpainting for your eyes. Whatever shadows you lay on top will give you an incredible airbrushed, seamless blend. This also creates beautiful dimension. When blending into the outer crease, I'm using less pressure to feather that creamy pencil out, but keeping it quite controlled on the actual lash line with more of a defined line. I'll start to do the same on the other eye. I really feel like the combination of a color fluid base and the creaminess of a brown pencil are total game changers in shaping the eye. And once I'm happy with the blend of my groundwork, I'm lightly buffing and blending out the crease, because I don't really want that defined cut crease look, just depth. Taking a shimmery taupe with a pencil brush, I'm setting the inner liner up until the center of the lid. I end up deepening this color later on. Then taking Feel Real from my Beautopsy palette, I'm using the medium brown all over the crease to set and amplify the work we've done, and slowly feathering whatever is left on the brush into the rest of the crease, building up in light circular motions until I'm happy with the depth and blend. To see if I need to go deeper on the eyes, I like to add a shimmer halfway through. This Tom Ford palette was limited edition, but I'll put an alternative in the description. I would say this is a fairly true neutral sparkle that doesn't pull too warm or too cool, with almost a colorless base. These types of shimmers always work best applied with fingers. So I'm going from the inner corner to the lid, just leaving the very corners free of shimmer. Now that we're done with shimmer, I can see where I want to build up contrast and depth in the eyes. And I start resetting that liner again with the shade Intra Fatum from my Beautopsy palette, going between the chocolate shade and the black for a varying depth along the lash line, getting deeper as it smokes out. You can already see on the other eye how much it pulled together all these tones and textures, and really tapering in that line as I get closer to the inner corner for that seamless blend. I want to color correct and brighten before foundation, and this Cinema Secrets concealer and corrector palette has not left my kit ever since I got it. It's so good. They're creamy and full coverage but feel weightless. I'm going in with the Beauty Blender into the peach shades to get that even thin layer all over. Because this is a cream and can be built up to a fuller coverage, I like a Beauty Blender application to control the level that I need instead of going full on from the get-go. So going underneath the eyes, around the nose, and general areas I want to correct and brighten, like around the mouth. Having worked with Shivani many times before, I do know that she has a problem with under eye creasing, so I'm trying to minimize that by picking a fuller coverage product and using a thinner application. So basically, the thinner the layers, the better. This works better than applying a medium or lighter coverage and building that up to the coverage that you need. Moving on to foundation, I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Foundation. This is a foundation I absolutely love thinned out, so you can start to see what I mean by thinner layers, big impact products. Evenly loading up my brush so that the product is distributed throughout the bristles, and then I'll start to feather this in. I went for an even fluffier foundation brush, so it can glide more seamlessly over that corrective work I did, as opposed to a dense brush that's going to move things around a little too much. Always taking that foundation around the contours of the jaw and down the neck, lightly around the ears as well. For big events, you really want a thin, even coverage over all exposed areas, but I like to use a specific body glow for the body. I do a combination of light stippling all over, until I'm happy with the result. For a cream contour, I'm going with a shade in between a bronzer and a contour. I would rather bring warmth back into Shivani's skin at this stage. Going over the contour points that I want to lift and warm up. So cheekbones, jawline, chin, tip of the nose, temples, and forehead. And with that same foundation brush, I'll start to blend up and outwards into the hairline. Using my foundation brush gives us extra blendability because that color is fusing with that leftover foundation to create an even better seamless match. And now we have the perfect definition. Going back in with that rosy taupe shade, I'm applying this on her lower lash line. You can even spray a bit of setting spray on the brush for more of an intense effect, but I like it soft for now. Taking the lightest shade, I'm applying this on the center of the lower lash line and lightly on the inner corners. With concealer, I can now start to add brightness to highlight the face. I'm going for a targeted application and blend, so I'm using a fluffy synthetic brush, going underneath the eyes, around the nose, lifting the contours of the eyes, and underneath the cheekbones and chin. Add a touch on the center of the forehead to blend in any contour edges. For blush, I'm mixing my color fluid in Heartist, which is a stunning rose shade, with the Charlotte Tilbury Pinkgasm blush to create a glowy, long-wear blush. With the same foundation brush I used earlier, I'm loading up my brush again for that seamless blend. This is going to be pretty pigmented, so I'm tapping off the excess on my hand and starting right between that contour and concealer. This creates an even flush throughout the center. Tapping softly but quickly in circles. And repeat on the other side. Blending the edges further with my beauty blender until I'm happy with the diffused placement. The addition of my color fluid transforms the formula into a budge-proof blush that won't fade anywhere, and it still has this gorgeous glow. A touch on the nose, chin, and very lightly around the forehead, just to make that warmth cohesive throughout. Blend further if you need to. Now I can start to lightly set the face. I'm using the By Terry Pressed Powder palette, and with a more detailed fluffy brush, I'm going in underneath the eyes. I'm going to be strategic with where I set the face because I want to keep that glow. So underneath the eyes, around the nose, and lightly pushing the product in. Going around the mouth to set the corrective work we did, and underneath the cheekbones to highlight. The center of the forehead, but mainly between the brows and even on the brows. I'm adding individual lashes focusing on the outer corners, and then with my Hero Line eyeliner, I'm adding a super thin line to basically blend the individual lashes with her own and create the look of a thicker lash line. Make sure it's super thin as you go inwards towards the inner corner. For the inner corner rim, I'm using a long-wear gel pencil that's brown. You can also go ahead and apply that all over the inner rims of your eyes if you're used to a black kohl. It'll give you a softer look, but you'll still get that beautiful depth and definition. For brows, I'm doing a bit of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze, really working it into her brows. Wiggle throughout the brows for even distribution, and then brush up into shape. I don't usually do this technique for brows, but Shivani's brow texture really suits that fluffier, laminated look that she loves, and it'll help me fill in a soft brow in the end. So I'm just finessing the shape and overall structure until I'm happy with the base. Taking the Urban Decay brow pencil, I'll start to very lightly feather in that color. I'm using a very light hand by holding the pen from the base and feathering the color in. I'm also making sure I don't fully fill in the brow. I like when you can see a bit of skin and gaps peeking through, because it makes for a much more natural brow. And I still want to go in with hair-like strokes with the pen side, so that will further add a layer of color. For powder bronzer, I'm using this to set the rest of the face where I didn't powder. This will keep the skin radiant but intensify the color. So around the cheekbones and jawline, forehead, and down the neck. Now for that beautiful lip that I'll be matching with her outfit. I'm taking this Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Countless Crimson and precisely lining the edges of her lips. This will be my base lip liner in shape. And because that final color will be somewhat of a muted red that looks blotted, I really want to have a base of rich, deeper reds. This will make the lip ultra long wearing by creating thin layers. Whenever I'm doing a red lip, I always rely on a precise lip liner, taking the time to get that base shape. Because once I apply the color on top, this will be the overall shape I'm getting. I'm buffing the color inwards, not so much from the precise edge that I've done, but from where that lip liner fades inwards. This just creates more of a seamless layer. Another great tip with reds is to set with a bit of translucent powder, just very lightly over the lip liner. I'm going to be using liquid lipstick, so you can skip this step if you're going to be doing that as well, but I feel like it just adds longevity. For lipsticks, I'm using the Lisa Eldridge liquid lipsticks in Jazz and Dragon, mixed in pretty much equal parts, and feathered in with a dense synthetic brush, really pushing that color into the lips. And going over the line work that we've done, I'm treating this as a fairly sheer wash of color all over. Now that I'm seeing the color go on, I can start to think about what's missing to mimic the more muted red tone. And looking at the dress, it was somewhat of a powdery, rusty red color that's not too faded, if that makes sense. So of course, I decided to pull out my color fluid in the shade Canvas, which is so amazing for lifting other colors and lightening shades. Applying a thin layer to the center of the lips and working outwards. And mixing in a bit of that original mix, and I feel like we got to the perfect color for Shivani, which kind of looks like a stain, but it's even and creamy and has that beautiful coverage like a traditional lipstick. And that completes my timeless Indian bridal look on Shivani. Soft golds and bronze tones that repeat throughout the entire look. And of course, a classic but modern take on a red lip. It's this even satin strawberry-like stain on the lips. I'm in love with this color, and Shivani looks absolutely stunning. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and socials for more videos, and let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.